Tarek Patel here from SB Live. Another episode coming at you. It's the CIF-SOUTHERN section sit down. And before we pan over to our guest, I have to introduce him the correct way. 1,243 wins, according to Cal High Sports. He'll correct us if it's wrong. That's the most winningest total of games in California high school boys basketball history. Ladies and gentlemen, modern day's Gary McKnight. Gary, thanks for coming in. My first question for you, real quick. So many wins. You started coaching basketball the 1983 season. You've been with the Monarchs. Have you ever done a podcast before?
Last Saturday.
Oh, man. So we barely missed you. And was that your first one?
Yeah.
And how did that go?
Went fine.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Hey, we'll take number 2. No problem. I think when you think about a high school basketball coach that's been around for 40 years, you've seen a lot. You've probably forgotten more basketball than we can remember. But I'd like to take you back if we can. How did you get into coaching? Did someone inspire you to do so? Did you always know you wanted to be a coach?
Well, I like sports, and I coached all different sports. And when I was 17 junior in high school, I started coaching youth basketball on weekends. I started coaching Pop Warner football, and I started coaching Little League or umpiring Little League and getting involved. And I found I really enjoyed this. And so I started coaching more and more. I played baseball and football in high school. I went out for sophomore basketball, got cut because the basketball coach said, "You're a lot better baseball player in basketball. You just go concentrate in baseball." Then he's the first one to hire me as a freshman coach out of high school. But it was a situation where I just enjoyed coaching. So when I went to college, I went to the counselor. I said, "I want to coach. What do I have to do to coach to make a living? You got to be a teacher." So I started concentrating on becoming a teacher, and I got my teacher credential in biology and health and PE, and I got a job at subbing and coaching here and there. I coached at San Clemente High School. I coached at Saddleback College with Bill Mulligan. Then I went to Ocean View High School with Jim Harris, where I got my first teaching job. And after about 4 years there, they had declining enrollment, and I got laid off because I was one of the young teachers in the district. And so I went over and got a teaching job at Modern Day High School.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I still coached that year at Ocean View. And in fact, I got called back to teach at Ocean View, and I decided to stay at Modern Day. I really liked Modern Day. And that year, the coach was let go, and they had 64 candidates and got down to the last 2. And I was fortunate enough to get the job.
Just a minute ago, I do want you to touch on this for the show. You almost became a varsity baseball coach. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I was a finalist for the head baseball job at Ocean View. I'd coached their lower levels for 3 years. And it came down to me and another guy. And the other guy had more longevity in the district, and they went with him because of that. He coached 1 year and then became an administrator. And 2 months later, I got the head basketball job at Modern Day. So
rest is history, as
Yeah.
they say. You've seen a lot of great basketball players. You've coached a lot of basketball players at Modern Day that have gone on and done great things. We'll touch on that in a second. But when you were a high schooler, do you remember who the best athlete or basketball player, football player, who do you remember going to watch on Friday nights or on the hardwood when you were in high school?
Well, Rich Branning, Marina, Wolfmeyer from Troy, they were awfully good. And Wayne Carlander at Ocean View was a great player. And Jack Tuz, who now teaches at Modern Day and coached with me 8 years, was CIF Player of the Year for Corona Del Mar under Jack Arian. And so, I got to see some really tremendous players and watch some really good coaches coach. And I'd always study the coaches and study the players and just see how they ran things and did things.
40 years, this question, what's the difference between the high school player in 1985 and the kid you're coaching here in 2023? What glares to you as you roll your eyes?
Well, actually, it's my 42nd year.
Okay.
If 40 would make me a year younger, that'd be good. It's just a change. In the 80s, a lot of my players come back to me and say, "Oh, you were so much tougher then. You made us do this, you made us do that. You're so soft now, coach." But if you don't change with the times, you're not going to make it. And as the years went on, sometimes I had to change how I did things or how we worked things or things, off-season things, weightlifting, like conditioning. We do a lot of plyometrics and weightlifting. We don't do any running on the track. Back in those days, we'd run till they couldn't see straight. And I just don't do that anymore because George Raveling one time told me, he says, "Gary, in the beginning of the season, play 9, 10 guys. And then get it down to your 7, and they'll be in shape in February. If you run their legs off in September, October, you won't have their legs in January and February." So I went with that philosophy. We try to play more guys early in the season and gradually work into whoever fits or due to injuries or what have you. But over the years, you definitely have to change. You got to learn that kids nowadays can be very sensitive. We're very fortunate to have a school that offers a lot of activities after school, football games, dances, and it's really a good situation for me to have a school like that where they have so much to offer the kids, not just basketball. And it's been over the years we've had to adjust definitely adjust things in scheduling too. We've had to adjust.
Coaching influences. I know you just mentioned George Raveling, one of the greats. Maybe a couple other names that helped you become the coach you are today.
Well, back in the day, a lot of the coaches would stay at some place for a long time. I remember walking in our gym one time, and we had Dean, North Carolina, Dean Smith, sitting on the stage with Jim Boeheim. And I think the other coach was Gene Bartow, and we had Rick Majerus in there. Ooh. And you just didn't know who was going to show up and watch your practices in those days. And I got a lot of relationships. But Jerry Tarkanian I enjoyed probably the most because when he'd talk to me, he'd look me in the eye and talk to me. I could be at an NCAA tournament or whatever, and he'd look you in the eye. He wasn't looking over your shoulder to see if he can find somebody better to talk to. He was really down-to-earth guy. And his practices are how I modeled a lot of my practices. He'd have 4 or 5 assistant coaches, and every kid was being coached on the floor. He had a defensive coach with Tim Gergerich. He had offensive coaches, and he ran the show. He was like the CEO, but when he had something to say, he said it, and they got it done. And I've always admired him. He was such a basketball guy. I remember one time, on Christmas morning, I got a call. We had won the San Diego tournament the night before, and it was Christmas morning. And my son goes, "Dad, there's somebody named Tarek on the phone." So I went over and answered, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" "Great, Gary. I can't believe you guys won that. You guys did a great job. I marvel at how you guys do this and that. Hey, I got to go. Take care." He didn't say Merry Christmas. He didn't say anything. He just wanted to talk basketball.
Who was he recruiting? That's who I want to know.
We had a kid named Shay Cotton.
Oh man, he's on. I got his name on our list. We'll get to him. Okay, that makes sense. Hey, Christmas morning call, and he was trying to get Shay Cotton. Now it makes sense. The life changes. You've had some health issues in your career. You're clearly on the other side of them. You're doing better. Touch on, I think you mentioned that you had a cancer scare in the late 90s. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I went in for a physical. My wife said, "It's time for you to have a physical." I couldn't understand. I was 300 pounds and 5'10", and she thinks I should have a physical. So I went in and they did a chest x-ray and they found a tumor in my pleural cavity, and ended up being a rare cancer, mesothelioma, the one you see on TV where it's asbestos related, and which gave me a pretty big scare. And I found out like on a Thursday and had it surgery on Tuesday. And for 5 years, you had to go in for chest x-ray every 3 months and a CAT scan every 6 months for 5 years. And after that, doctor called me and said, "Okay, didn't come back. Your margins are clear." By the way, there's 8 to 9% or 8 to 10% survival rate of that cancer. So, and here it is 30 years later, and I feel pretty fortunate and lucky, because when you walk out of that cancer ward, there's a lot of people that are not lucky. And I've always it really gave me a different perspective, because I'm going to enjoy what I do now. It's not the wins and losses are not the end of the world, and it's just making the best the situation, enjoying the kids, and just coaching, and it really gave me a different perspective.
Thank you for sharing, Coach. And one more ad on the health that I think you do want to touch on. I remember being at games, and there's always a soda can on the scorer's table. It was like a Gary McKnight trademark. However, that's not the case anymore. Touch on the soda can.
Diet Coke, not Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke. And I was drinking up to 20, 25 a day, and I drink 5 at practice. And I have diabetes, and so everybody always said, well, drink diet drinks if you're going to have diabetes. Well, it turns out the sodium in there was giving me cellulitis in the legs, and I spent a couple of times in the hospital with cellulitis, and so I just said, finally, my wife said, you got to change. So I now drink black unsweetened iced tea, water, and I leave it at that. And
let's talk about some of those players you've coached and even coached against. Let's start with the Monarchs. I got some names here. Of course, I'm going to miss some, but the ones that come to mind: Taylor King, Stanley Johnson, Travis and David Ware, Devin Askew. As of recent, I even went back. Jamal Sampson, if I'm not mistaken, you coached. And we'll get to Shay Cotton in a second. I think he's really interesting. But you've had a chance to coach some great players. By all means, chime in with some more that probably need to be recognized. And then if you can, on the second part, what seems to be the common denominator between all those great players? They all have what?
There's a guy named Miles Simon, too.
Yes.
Miles, he's coaching with Phoenix now. But no, I was very fortunate. When I first got the job, I inherited a really good team. Matt Beazert and Chris Jackson, Mike Fielder, and then Mike Mitchell and Tom Lewis transferred in. And in those days, to have a high school team of that size was unique. And we were fortunate that first year to win the CIF title. We beat Long Beach Poly in the finals. Ron Palmer, heck of a coach. We beat him at the Long Beach Sports Arena. And it was, to be a first-year coach and get that, I mean, I was in La La Land.
And how old were you at the time?
29.
Did you feel like you were ready?
Looking back, no. No, but at the time, I thought I was cocky and pretty, and then in the following year, we were ranked number 1 in the nation. Went back and played DeMatha, and they had Danny Ferry and Valentine, and they had a really good team. And Morgan Wooten was the coach, and we got beat. And then we went the whole length of the season, played Poly again in the CF finals, got beat in overtime. And in those days, runner-up didn't go to the state. So it was a tough way to end that. It was, it humbled me real quick. And the following year, we put together a good team. We had Tom Peabody that played at Loyola Marymount, point guard. They called him the Human Bruise. Tom Lewis was at the 2. Mike Kelly was at the 3, who's coaching in Australia now and had a great career down there. We had Mike Mitchell, who's WAC Player of the Year for Colorado. And we had Stu Thomas that went to Stanford. And that team went 29-0 and just had a tremendous year. That year they didn't go to the state. There was no state tournament. And so that kind of got us going. We got hot and won 3 or 4 CF titles in a row. And it just, it was, everything just came together. And I think a lot of the players we've had have come to modern day because of our success, or come because of the things we do. And, it's just, and the school we have, because the school offers a lot. And so I've been very fortunate to be in the right place. And the kids that have come through there have been tremendous. And, this year's group is just a great group. We were fortunate enough to win the CF title last year. I have 12 kids in the locker room with 4.0s. They got a 3.6 team GPA. And so if I call timeout, at least 3 of the 5 know what I said. So it works out pretty well.
Okay. Yeah, you got the majority. It's going to connect for the majority. I do love the recall on that. I do want to touch on Stanley Johnson before we get to Shay Cotton. If I'm not mistaken, Stanley Johnson is arguably the most decorated high school basketball player in California. 4 straight CIF state championships, and all 4 at the highest level. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, pretty impressive resume.
His freshman year, he had 15 rebounds in the state finals. He played center. His sophomore year, he played forward for us, was our leader and scorer and what have you. His junior year, he played shooting guard for us. He worked so hard in the game. He'd work practice in the morning, practice with us, and then go and work out. A lot of times he worked out with Kobe. And then his senior year, he played point guard. So he played
Wow.
all 4 spots for us, and I think it's really helped him when he was being a pro, handling the ball and what have you. Stanley just had a passion and a love for the game. And he was going to stay a second year at Arizona, but his mother got cancer and was dying. And he wanted his mom to see him sign with the pros, so he decided to go out that first year. Funny thing about it was Stanley was all set to go to UCLA.
Wow.
He loved Ben Hallen. Loved Ben Hallen.
Oh, Ben could recruit. His classes were really, really, really good.
And he was all set to go to UCLA. And then Ben got let go, and he went with Sean, which wasn't a mistake. Sean does a good job. And so it worked out good for him.
Shay Cotton. I mean, some people say Shay Cotton was like LeBron. That kind of buzz, that kind of limelight per se, and the talent. Not please let talk about Shay Cotton.
They called him the man child.
The man child.
Shay came to us during his freshman year. He left Bosco and came to us. And his first time he got the ball in the game, got the ball in the left wing, went the length of court, and just threw it through. One time I saw him, we ran a short corner for him on a zone offense, and we're playing Poly. And we threw him the ball, and he did a two-handed dunk, and he was arms and shoulders even with the rim.
When you talk about Shay Cotton and how much he might have been ahead of his time in regard to the buzz, so you're talking mid-90s, the name that comes to mind, at least recently, is a kid like Bronny James. I know there's a different LeBron James son, I get it, but it's a fair comparison because to a certain element, Shay Cotton was that kind of not only a good player, but man, he was attracting sold out crowds. When you think about a 16, 17-year-old kid going through that, you got an inside look on how challenging it was for him to deal with it. What was your role, him going through that?
Well, I just try to make him as relaxed as possible, but he got banged up a few times that year, and league, I think he only played 2 league games that year because he was a little banged up. But Clay McKnight got MVP of the league that year because he wasn't playing. If he was playing, Clay wouldn't have got it.
Okay.
But he just went through a lot, and he took things hard. He wanted to be perfect all the time in a game that can't be played perfect. Bob Knight used to say that. We all strive for perfection, but it's something that can't be played perfect. And I think he felt just way too much pressure. And being on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a sophomore in high school probably didn't help.
As fantastic as it sounds,
Yeah.
there was kind of a flip side to that. Players you coached against, before I kind of go through some names that I know of, I'd like to hear maybe 3 or 4 or 5 names that pop off the top of your mind. Standouts.
Kevin Love in the Nike Extravaganza. I never saw a guy chest pass from one end to the other.
Yeah, he made that a trademark of his.
He was amazing. We went against Ron Mercer.
Oh, wow.
And in Las Vegas, they beat us by 2 points in Vegas at Durango High School, and in the finals. And he was a tremendous player. Carmelo, we played him at Long Beach Sports Arena, and we were fortunate enough to beat them. And it was funny thing is my son Clay ended up being an assistant coach at Syracuse, and he'd work Carmelo out all the time on shooting and what have you. So it's funny how the world of basketball is not as big as you think. But all those guys, and we went against some of the best players in the country year in, year out, and playing in all these national tournaments.
Did you guys not play against LeBron James? Was there not?
Yeah.
Was that at Poly Pavilion? Refresh my memory on that.
11,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and it was played at Poly Pavilion, and I'm sitting there on the bench, and first of all they came out and they said, "Coach, I know you're the home team, but they want to wear white." I said, "Okay, well we're ready." "Coach, they want to use this basketball." "Okay, we'll use that basketball." Here comes the 3 referees. I knew the first one, knew the second one, third one My assistant goes, he's done their last 3 games. He travels with the team.
Whoa.
I go, oh, by the way, they want to use UCLA's locker room. We have the visitors. We're the home team. So I knew what
it was on ESPN, I
yeah.
think. Yep.
And we did a great job on LeBron that game. And unfortunately, double teaming him or triple teaming him at times, other people got some good shots. We lost by 6. And we had DJ Strawberry, who went down and played at Maryland, and we had Wesley Washington played at Oregon, and we had a pretty good team. And Harrison Shane that played at Princeton, and good group. And we didn't play quite as well as we probably could have, but it was a great atmosphere for the kids. Seeing that crowd, it was packed.
They'll never forget it type day.
Just packed. And it was a great, sometimes playing those games might help you win the last game of the season. That's the way I look at it. And we got to play, I got to coach against LeBron, his last high school game ever. I was coaching the Nike game, the Michael Jordan game, and he was on the other team. And we're practicing, and I got my assistant coach. I think it was a couple Harvey Catani and one of the other guys.
Okay.
And we're sitting there, and I go, hey, this kid we have here is good. What's his name again? What? Chris what? Chris Paul? He's pretty good.
Wow.
And Chris Paul put on a show that day, and we were able to beat him on that game. But, but everybody's playing half the game. It wasn't
sure. Exhibition type thing. Yeah.
But it was kind of fun, but I still remember Chris Paul. Yeah.
Was LeBron, how was he impressive to you? Can you kind of describe just watching him play and move and things like that?
Well, he's big. He was like Magic Johnson.
Okay.
He's a big guy. And even in high school, he's big. But about 3 years ago, Stanley Johnson was playing with the Lakers. So I got some good seats. I got to sit on the court first time ever. And I was up close to LeBron. He's a man. He's a big guy.
Yes, he is.
And, watching him, he talks the whole time on the court and telling guys what to do and what have you.
Oh, you love the way he communicates.
Great. He acknowledges things. He's got great knowledge of the game. And I got a better feel for him of what, just being that close and seeing the things he's doing.
Locally, you kind of touched on Kevin Love, LeBron, Ron Mercer, great throwback name there. Locally, Trinity League per se, the guy, Klay Thompson and names like that, or I don't know if you ever played Drew Holiday in high school. Some of these local Los Angeles SoCal talents. Who are some of the names, if you don't mind, that really?
The O'Banion brothers at our teacher.
Sure.
Were very, very talented. They were always a tough game for us. One time, Ed ran by me, and honest to God, I felt like a wind hit me. He was that type of athlete. Those two were really good. Ocean View had some good players with Ricky Butler, who was a tremendous player, whose son later ended up playing for me. Klay Thompson played at Santa Margarita.
Sure.
Very talented player. In fact, his high school coach, Jerry DeBus, ended up coming over and was my assistant for several years. And good guy. I think Orange County's had, quite a few pretty good, darn good players over the years. And, basketball has gotten so much better. But even now, we're very good, but there's a lot of teams really good now. We played a Roosevelt team this weekend, and there's teams all over Southern California that are very good. Notre Dame,
yep.
Good teams, and Harvard Westlake, and it just one after another. And where it used to be Crenshaw, Mater Dei,
yep.
Poly,
yep.
Now it's expanded out, and there's a lot of challenges out there. San John Bosco's been a real worthy opponent. Even in our league now, there's some good teams, and there's no given. We were fortunate enough we won 34 league titles in a row, and this last year we lost. And everybody says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing's wrong. Some of these teams are getting better."
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
But
Jay Sarah, I think, kind of on the rise. They're supposed to have a good team this year.
Absolutely. Them and Santa Margarita is good, and Olu's had some good years, and it's there's good competition.
I think I lied. I'm going to serve up one more, actually. The playoff, the open division format, the pool play. I gotta ask you that. Do you like it? Do some coaches like that the guaranteed 3 games, and even if you go on the road and you lose your first one, you still got a chance to fight back? It's happened before. Some coaches like that cutthroat. Let's just make it 16 teams or 32 teams, and if you lose, you're done. Where do you sit on that?
Well, I've lived through them all. The first I think we've been 10 years at the Open, or 9 years, and the first 8 we were in the Open.
Yep.
Last year, we were a very young team. I started 2 freshmen, or started 1 freshman. Another freshman was right off the bench. A kid named Martinson and Barnett, and we were very young, and we kept getting better as the year went on. In the league, we had some ups and downs, but I think it made us better for the playoff run, and we were lucky to win the Division I. Well, let me tell you, having those kids at half court at the Honda Center holding that plaque is just as much fun as holding it for the Open Division.
Maybe more rewarding because it's cutthroat round to round, Coach.
Oh, yeah, and we had some close games.
Mm-hmm.
We won a lot of close games last year, and that part was good. In the Open Division, we've had times where we didn't get seeded, and we had 3 road games and won all 3. Beat the Mobley down at his school. Went to
Rancho Christian, right?
No, it's Corona Centennial and Harvard Westlake, and won all 3. And then we lost to Sierra Canyon in the finals, down Southern California finals. But it was a great run.
Yeah,
I mean, 3 games on the road like that, and you feel like, well, geez, they didn't respect us enough to seed us, and we were 6 or 7 seed, and we won 3 games on the road, and I was pretty, that part was great. I like the Open Division because I like playing the best teams.
Sure.
I like playing against the best coaches, and and I like the idea of, no matter what, we're going to go 0-3, and we're still going to make the state.
Yeah, the Open Division does give you a state berth no matter what. That's true.
You might be back down to Division I, but you're back.
That's what Notre Dame did. In the Open. I think they won 1 game. They go down to Division I, won the Division I state championship with Caleb Foster and Dusty Stromer and those guys.
Yeah, they beat us.
Okay,
So,
that's okay.
Caleb
Foster is quite the player.
We beat St. Bernard's, and we went on a 10-0 run against them in the second half. Took the lead up 5, and that was it. Those guys took over.
Yeah.
Coach did a good job, and he had some good players.
Yeah.
But I was really proud of my group, and again, I think it was a great throw for them.
If I'm not mistaken, since the birth of the Open Division, only 2 programs have been in it every year. I know last year was it's Mater Dei and Sierra Canyon. So you guys were the only ones to make it every year. Congratulations to you, Coach. I guess this will really be my last one. As you mentioned, you're 70 years old. You don't plan on stopping. You'll go to 100 if you feel right, sounds like. But is there a different level of accomplishment you seek? As I think it's fair to say you're on the back 3 or 4 holes of your career. Winning's always there. You've done plenty of it. But is there something else now later in your career that you're like, I kind of want to accomplish this?
I'd like to, finish. I got such great kids. I got young kids, and I like to coach them. But my family loves basketball. My oldest son was a very good basketball player. All 5 of my sons played different sports. But my family really gets involved. It's a family affair. My wife hasn't missed a game, probably 3 games in 42 years. And when I used to coach baseball, she'd scorekeep, and so, I mean, it's a family thing. And we all do it together, and and they all enjoy it, and they like, being part of it. Mater Dei is a special place. I mean, I've said it before, but it offers so much, from the faith to the academics to the athletics or the activities. That school comes alive when school ends. There's something going on everywhere on that campus. And it's been such a big part of me. I just, it's really tough. I know it was tough on Bruce to retire. And I like to, just keep going as long as I can, stay healthy. I'm having fun, and,
just getting started, Coach.
And I think about it all the time.
That's great.
I think about what am I going to do? I'll sit there at meetings and start doing a depth chart for the next 4 years. Just saying, okay, I got that spot filled. Oh, this one could be problems. So, it's just gives me something to do.
Coach McKnight, thank you so much for coming on. The winningest high school basketball coach in California. More wins coming this year and sounds like years to come. I'm Tarek Patel with SB Live, another episode of the Southern Section Sit Down. Thanks for joining us, Coach. Thanks for coming in and good luck to you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. NCIF.